Okay, let's get started. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 62nd annual general meeting of the Nova Scotia College of Social Workers. Can you imagine? We've been around for 62 years. Isn't that fantastic? It is wonderful to see so many of you join us today as we reflect on our collective accomplishments and set the groundwork for the future. We do have quorum, as our quorum is 20. So before we begin, I'd like to, let's see if we have our presentation up and running. Great, thank you. I'd like to give a land acknowledgement. The Nova Scotia College of Social Workers, of course, we serve in Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people, whose inherent rights were recognized in the peace and friendship treaties that were signed from 1725 to 1779. And this series of treaties did not surrender Indigenous land, resources, or sovereignty to the British Empire, but instead established rules for an ongoing relationship between nations. The treaties were later reaffirmed by Canada in Section 35 of the Constitution Act in 1982 and remain active to this day. And I always like to say, when it comes to land acknowledgements in settings like this, that we need to point out that much of the harms that social workers are employed to heal have their roots in colonialism. Not just the harms done to Indigenous peoples, but
he was at the funeral ahead of us.
Many of the harms have
negotiation, but he won't be at the funeral today because he's got this AGM.
Many of the harms that have been caused have their roots in the disrupted relationships that have come from a non-adherence to these treaties. So the Nova Scotia College of Social Workers joins our members and our communities in the labor of reconciliation, and we are grateful to live and work together as treaty people in Mi'kmaq. I'd also like to give a reparation statement. It's important to affirm our commitment to reparations, and as an organization, we recognize the ongoing impacts of anti-Black racism and systemic disenfranchisement faced by African Nova Scotian communities. Reparations are a moral and a material obligation, and we are unwavering in our dedication to addressing these historical injustices. Together, we will continue to work with our members to foster systemic change and equity. And our reparations is not only expressed within our code of ethics and standards of practice, but also in much of the work that we do as a college. We're certainly proud of the work that we've been doing with the Association of Black Social Workers to make live some of the sentiments in our reparation statement. Now I'd like to introduce today's agenda. It's a simple and business agenda that we should be able to make our way through. Please ensure that you have a copy of the agenda handy as we move through each item. As we move through these items, this agenda will disappear from our screen. So I think you probably have access to it in your email. And so if there are no objections or additions, I'll call for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Just some technical issues in terms of voting. You can use the hand option to vote. You can use the chat, or you can use your video and microphone. We will accept them all. So as Robert calls for a motion, anyone can just put their hand up, or any of the other options I suggested.
That's great. Thanks, Al. I suppose I should have introduced myself. We didn't introduce ourselves.
I didn't put it in your, I didn't put it in your script.
There you go. Just as we get ready for this first piece of business, I'm of course Robert Wright, and I'm pleased and privileged to serve as the president of the Nova Scotia College. So thank you so much. Whose hand was that?
So Eva made the motion.
And okay, and then I see
Katie has
Katie
seconded.
seconding the motion. Are there any questions about that? Any questions on the agenda? Any additions? Any need for clarification? I'll give a moment for people to. And okay, then let's say all in favor then, raise your hand. It's good practice on our call here. Just raise your hand. Excellent. Give a moment for all the hands to go up. Okay. Thanks there, Katie. Okay, that's fantastic. And let's see. I think we have a thumbs down option in the reactions, don't we? To differentiate the hands raised from the
There can be.
So all opposed, let's see a thumbs down. Okay, that's great. All right. Consider that motion approved. Of course, joining me here in the office is Alex Stratford. Did you want to say more than that?
Just delighted to be here. This is my, although there's been 62 AGMs, this is my ninth.
Right.
Happy to serve you all and be here with you today, and excited to share the work over the last year, because there's been a lot of really important advancements.
Yeah, oh, that's great. Well, I just wonder, as we reflect on that 62 years of operation, I know I'm in my 36th year of practice, but I'm probably not the person with the longest social work service record. So I wonder who is the person with the longest service record on the call today. I'm in at 36 years. Do I hear 37? Is anybody over 37? Who has been practicing for longer than 36 years? Put it right in the chat how many years you've been practicing. I'm sure I'm not the longest serving social worker here. Dominic, 38 years.
Dominic might take it.
Anyone with longer service than that? 38 years going once? 38 years going twice?
Oh, maybe Joanne.
It's Scott McGilvery here. I've been doing it for 41 years.
There you go.
Okay, well, Judy comes in at 42, so Judy looks like anybody with 43, going once, going twice. Judy, I think you are the longest serving social worker in our room today. So that's great to recognize folk who've been at it for a while, and people who've contributed not only to the association but to their profession, to their community, to the ongoing breadth and depth of social work practice. Thank you for that. Okay, so now we're going to get into a series of reports.
We're gonna do the minutes first.
Oh, I'm sorry, did I miss that? Yeah. Okay, so let's do the approval of the minutes.
So the full minutes were circulated to everyone before this agenda. I've just put a highlighted version of the minutes on this screen here. I wasn't going to share all the minutes because they were circulated.
No, absolutely. So the minutes were circulated. We'll give people a moment to see whether or not there's any items arising from the minutes. You know, there were some significant changes. Lynn ended her terms of service as president of the of the college, and I took over. Certainly thank Lynn for her years of service in that role. So I'm not going to read what's on the screen there in terms of the approval of minutes and the summary. I will.
So Rebecca, just put the link in the chat with the full AGM minutes if you didn't have access.
Okay, and I see Angela raising her hand.
Angela, are you making a motion to approve the minutes, or do you have a question?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank you very much. Do we have a second? Thank you, Lynn. Now I'll say all in favor then of approving the minutes, just raise your hand. See there. Okay, thank you very much. It's almost unanimous. I think that all opposed, you can just put thumbs down. That's great. So we'll move on then to the series of reports. So the first, of course, is the president's report. What I would like to suggest that perhaps what we'll do is we'll just review the various reports, and I'll ask for a motion to approve the reports as a group. So and of course, when we come time for the vote, if there are any questions about any of the reports, we'll deal with them then. So this has been my first year of service, and so you had been sent the president's report. Just an overview you'll see there on your screen, and just talking a little bit about our commitment to equity and justice. And certainly this is one of the things that motivated me to serve as president, that the direction of the college and moving towards leading into reparations and reconciliation, and we are really a leader, not just in this country, but as I travel around in my capacity, I see how we are leading in this area throughout the continent, and that's very satisfying to see. We've done much to identify these things in our code of ethics, our standards of practice. We're working to address historical harms and really to make social work practice an engaging and ethical field. And I say not that we've lacked ethics, but I think what we have seen is that we are really in an era of reparations and recognition of historical harms. And as a profession, we have been leaning in and as leaders of those recognitions. So with that, I'll say no more about the president's report, and we'll move to the executive director and registrar's report. Alec, give you a moment.
Yes, thank you, Robert. Again, it's been a pleasure and privilege to have you on board, leading our organization and supporting it, and certainly providing mentorship as well in terms of how we lead, how we grow as a profession, and how we practice. 2024, many challenges, many successes. Whenever the staff team kind of gets together to debrief or to talk about where we're going, everyone expresses, again, I think a real sense of contentment with the work that we're doing, the impact that it's having. We then realize that contentness is kind of isolated in a world around us that is, facing greater despair and challenges, rising inequality. But I think that as a profession and as an organization, we're trying to find again, that balance of being able to, find some meaning in the work that we're doing while pushing for the type of change that we all want to achieve. I can tell you that our numbers in terms of registered social workers continue to rise. Again, last year, each year we grow. Last year upon renewal, we had 2,700 members, or almost 2,800. This year, as you'll see in the report, we're approaching over 3,000 at this point in time. That includes our non-active members who are retired, and students as well. Again, that growth is, I think, both a testament to the work on the ground and the value that employers and society sees in social workers. On the reverse of that, it's also a sign of our ailing systems and how we distribute income and well-being issues that we continue to be called in to address in many situations. As you all know, the foundational mission of social work is to work ourselves out of jobs. And I think there's both positives and negatives in that growth that we see in our profession. As Robert mentioned, we are really leaning into equity and justice. It is, as Robert also mentioned, foundational to our history is the genocide of Indigenous people, as well as the enslavement and historic abuses against African Nova Scotians. So we're really trying to embrace both Indigenous ways of knowing through reconciliation and decolonization, as well as trying to enhance Afrocentric perspectives in our core documents. Now, throughout the last 2 years, we've done extensive work on transforming the new National Code of Ethics to make them work here in Nova Scotia through a series of standards and ethics. As Robert mentioned, core big changes in those documents are clear commitments to reparations, are clear commitments to climate justice, and the continued work of reconciliation and decolonization, as well as rising to the challenges that we're currently facing in Nova Scotia with new standards related to gender-based violence and what social workers' role is in addressing the complex issues there, as well as deeper integration of both community care and an understanding of moral distress and critical reflection. It is our goal as we unroll those new code of ethics, which will happen this year and into next year, that we provide the spaces to create meaning, good conversation, and to bring those newer codes, still foundational, our values are found within them, but adapted to the current challenges that we face. Now, we continue to have the mandate in Nova Scotia in terms of a regulatory body, and it's fundamental to how we govern the profession of social work. We are the only profession still to this day that has social justice as its core mandate. Social justice, of course, isn't just about individual advocacy, but tackling the big systemic issues. Ultimately, the college's mandate is about public safety and ensuring that we are providing a safe and ethical delivery of social work practice. We know there's not a shred of evidence out there that would not point to the systems that social workers work within as being one of the most significant risks to the public, particularly the most vulnerable that we serve. So as part of our regulatory framework, we advocate for systems change to be able to enhance the safe and ethical delivery of social work practice. We do this in a number of ways on core issues like mental health, child welfare, housing. We have many partners that we work with, including our great partnership with Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, which we're able to produce really powerful papers like the Contradictions in Care paper that was produced in December, which documented the experiences of child welfare social workers in the current context of delivering services, and put forward a compelling story of the challenges that are faced and the amazing work that social workers do as well within that setting. That, coupled with our advocacy day and our continued relationship building around how we deliver good comprehensive mental health and our partnership with the Nova Scotia Action Coalition for Community Wellbeing, we've been able to meaningfully address some of the issues in mental health, child welfare, and housing as part of our regulatory framework, and one that is essential to the governance of social work as a social justice organization, but also, again, the reality is that social workers serve the most vulnerable in our society, and the voices of those folks are continually being marginalized and disregarded. And so being able to elevate those calls for change, calls for policies that actually work for those who have been disenfranchised is incredibly important to how we deliver safe services. We've done that, as I mentioned, in a number of ways. One is you'll soon see our framework for how we are considering proactive regulation, making sure that we are getting ahead of the risk and building out greater safety in practice through that advocacy, as well as community work and doing the direct practice work as well through our complaints and discipline process, as well as doing proactive compliance work there as well. We continue to try and engage the public around the role of social work in society, what amazing ethical practice looks like, and how we enhance that. We also made, and I'm really delighted to say, as we've embraced and put central in our governance process reparations. Not only have we forged a really solid partnership with the Association of Black Social Workers over the last few years on some projects that are really going to be important to the advancement of Afrocentric practice and clinical social work in particular with communities of African descent. But we also internally restructured and changed the position that was an admin position to a social work role and created the new position of the associate registrar and also designated it to an African Nova Scotian applicant. We were so delighted to be able to hire and have Bray Simons come on board to be able to help us advance our goals towards reparations, as well as continue to have a really good, solid process in terms of administration of our regulatory framework. So I was delighted to see all those changes come into play. Some pretty major advancements this year in terms of our own operations and goals, the achievement of a new strategic plan, code of ethics, and a framework for proactive regulation are all a part of that. So look forward to any comments or questions as we move through reports.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Alec. Now we'll turn to Angela for the Board of Examiners report.
Hi, my name is Angela Penny, RSW, she, her, and I'm recently elected chair of the Board of Examiners. Can everyone hear me?
You can hear, yeah.
Perfect. I'm honored to present the Board of Examiners 2024 annual report. This evaluation showcases our progress, changes, and the vision that drives our ongoing commitment to upholding the highest standards of social work practice. First, I want to take the opportunity to recognize the Board of Examiner chairs in 2024. From January to October of last year, Jack Launderville, RSW, served as chair, concluding his term on the board. From October of 2024 to March 2025, Dennis Adams served as chair, also concluding his term on the board. I've had the privilege to work closely with both of these esteemed social workers on the Board of Examiners and other committees during their terms on the board. Their leadership exemplifies integrity and right touch regulation, continued commitment to the college, and upholding the integrity of the social work profession. In addition, Jack was a recipient of the Canadian Association of Social Workers Distinguished Service Award in 2024, an honor that reflects his exceptional contributions to the social work profession. I also want to take the opportunity to acknowledge and thank the tireless work of our members of the Board of Examiners. Dennis Adams, Afalaki, Jibwa, Jay Benoit, Jolene Como, Bernadette Fraser, Cassandra Hanrahan, Teresa Johnson, Jack Launderville, Katie McCachran, and myself, as well as our public appointees, Leanne Chang, Jason Cook, and Lysandra Hernandez. I also want to thank the Nova Scotia College social workers staff, Alex Stratford, Bria Simmons, and Wilhelmina Welbeck, who have provided direction and support to the Board of Examiners during this past year. There's been much work completed by the Board of Examiners as identified in the report, and I want to speak to some of the highlights. This year marked a pivotal shift toward clinical specialization, moving away from the previous practice of private practice focus. This critical shift in regulation recognized the increasing complexity of social work in clinical settings and the evolving needs in our communities. This change also saw the introduction of updated clinical guidelines in collaboration with the college's clinical committee. This transition aims to enhance service quality, regulatory efficiency, and reinforce core values of dignity, social justice, and anti-racist practices. Our noted changes have improved our regulatory efficiency. We continue to regulate in an objective and transparent manner and ensure fair registration practices. We have streamlined the registration process, currently exceeding government set targets, including processing interprovincial applications within 5 days. We are committed to inclusivity, processing international applications, and to ensure and support the successful integration of social workers into our regulated profession, further enriching the diversity of our professional community. A topic I feel very passionate about is the strengthening of our professional development. Significant strides were made in advancing professional development, reporting, and opportunities. The Canadian Candidacy Mentorship Program, CMP, continues to foster ethical practice. The program helps participants learn how their personal biases and social locations influence professional decision-making, ensuring more thoughtful and ethical practice. It provides the opportunity for mentors to educate social work candidates about the stresses inherent in the profession and provides tools to manage occupational stress injuries. The goal is to foster a strong, supportive community to not only maintain the integrity of the social profession, but also strengthen the resiliency of social workers. Accountability and future vision. Our commitment to public accountability remains strong, with transparent practices and proactive risk management. The Fair Registration Practice Act, FRPA, review conducted last year, further validated our commitment to public accountability. This review identified that we are conducting our work with full transparency, impartiality, and procedural fairness. This review reflects the trust placed in us to not only regulate our members, but also protect the public interest. Looking ahead, we aim to align with societal needs through equity, inclusion, and collaboration, ensuring safe and safer social work. The adoption of updated code of ethics and standards, combined with initiatives like anti-bias training, underscores our commitment to equity, inclusion, and excellence. And I have some notes for the next slide as well. Great. The workforce landscape in Nova Scotia is undergoing significant changes over the past several years, reflecting the broader societal and systemic shifts. We embrace the diversity of our social workers across programs, jurisdictions, and specialty of practice. Social workers are exceptionally skilled, highly educated, and rigorously trained group of professionals committed to addressing some of the most complex challenges in society. As of May 2025, as Alec already stated, we have 3,094 members, and that includes the members, the 1,385 registered social workers, and the other numbers noted here under clinical specialists, social work candidates, social workers registered in telepractice, associates, retired associates, and students. Our social workers work across the province from Cape Breton, North Shore, South Shore, Annapolis Valley, and Halifax regions. We have processed 117 new applications of interprovincial transfer or telepractice from 7 provinces coast to coast, with 61.5% of social workers originating from Ontario. In addition, we have 44 new international applications from around the world, with the highest rates of applications from India, USA, and Nigeria. Our social workers identify as working in 22 various fields. The largest employer is the sector of Nova Scotia Health, where 274 are employed in acute and primary care and 442 in mental health and addictions. The second most significant employer is the Department of Opportunities and Social Development, where 480 social workers are employed in child and family well-being. I thank you for this opportunity to lead as chair of the Board of Examiners. The work we do today will shape the future of our profession and secure better outcomes for the communities relying on our care. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Angela. And now we'll have our last of the omnibus reports from Val Hurd, Complaint Committee report. Thanks, Val.
Is Val online?
Oh.
Okay. I will make that report as to not slow things up, if that's all right with folks.
Sure.
Okay, so the complaints committee again is one of the busiest committees at the college. They do really rigorous work and really dive into some of the complexities of social work practice. Last year, the college exercised 44 complaints that were investigated. There were 14 new and 30 that carried over from 30 that carried over from the year before. There were 33 final decisions rendered, as well as it was determined that 19 complaints were outside of the NSCSW's jurisdiction. You can see on your right there the areas in which complaints predominantly come from. As you can imagine, we do receive the most amount of complaints from child and family well-being. Lots of reasons for that. One is involuntary care, and two is the challenges in the delivery of that system at this point in time. Some of the major issues we continue to tackle in terms of complaints are in regards to communication concerns, just including kind of lack of transparency in that communication, some unprofessional tones, oftentimes poor listening, or just overuse of jargon and technical language that makes it harder for folks to be able to connect and relate to their social workers. And ultimately, we also deal with a lot of challenges in terms of boundary concerns, just in terms of personal and professional roles, always with good intentions, but oftentimes, there's reminders of the fact that social workers are always in positions of power, and that in those relationships, dual or otherwise, it is always upon the social worker to recognize that power and maintain those boundaries. In terms of where complaints originated from, most come from clients themselves. Others come from either employers or third parties in some instances. And in cases, the registrar has also put in complaints in that regards. Overall, a busy time for the complaints committee as always. We have, and I'm going to knock on wood, seen our complaints level out. Usually we are here saying that we saw another banner year, record complaints. We do seem to see those starting to level out a little bit. The complaints process is also, we've continued to do work and are continuing to do work to ensure that what is a quasi-judicial process is rooted in principles of trauma-informed care, trying to provide as much opportunities and choices to both complainants and respondents to communicate processes as much as we can, and to continue to ensure that we're working towards greater safety in practice. So before we get on to the treasurer's report, I think we'll pause there. Correct, Robert?
Correct.
Okay.
Thanks. So we've just heard the president's report, the executive director, registrar's report, the board of examiners report, and the complaint committee report. And in omnibus fashion, can I get a motion to receive all of these reports?
I can move. It's Kate.
Thank you, Kate. Do I have a second?
I'll second Scott McGilvery.
Thank you, Scott. So, are there any questions about any of those reports? Any comments, questions? We'll take a few moments for that. If there are none, then I'll invite folk to raise their hand. All in favor? Okay. You see 22 raised hands. Thank you so much. And any opposed, you can indicate with a thumbs down sign. We'll consider those reports passed. Thank you so much. And now the treasurer's report. So we'll go to Kate for that.
Good morning, everyone. Hello. As I mentioned, I'm always really proud. I love the AGM because to see it all together in a package is wonderful. Okay, so I am Kate Matheson. My pronouns are she and her. I am the College Council Treasurer, and I'm very pleased to be here with you today. I'm going to be looking at my notes on the other screen, just in case you wonder what I'm looking at. I would like to echo the sentiments of the land acknowledgement we heard this morning, and I want to express my gratitude for the land we live on. I'm here in Amasapuquiak in what we also known as New Glasgow. I'm grateful for the Mi'kmaq people, and I am proud of our commitment to reparations for Black Nova Scotians. So we're going to talk about growth and strategic transition. 2024 marked the launch of our second strategic plan cycle. Financial pressures continue to grow. However, we are staying the course and making cautious and prudent adjustments, allowing for growth both within staff and for membership. And I think many of us have felt the positive impacts of both our staff team growth and our professional development program and the advocacy work that's happening. So pragmatic but optimistic investments have resulted in an increase in our capacity to serve the public and our members. We're fortunate that Bria has chosen to join the staff team. And as I mentioned, advocacy, partnerships, and collaborations are continuing to flourish. We might consider this to be the least exciting aspect of our annual general meeting. However, strong financial management by ALEC and staff with diligent oversight by council has allowed us to live our values and maintain remarkable momentum in advocacy for Nova Scotians. And I think those previous reports say it all. It's really incredible. So thanks, everybody. And we can move on to the audit.
So we will welcome Jeff Purvis from our auditors, Lyle Tilly Davidson, to present the audit statements. Jeff, I'm glad you got online.
I did, yeah, just a little technical difficulty there, but made it in. Okay, hello everyone. I am Jeff Purvis. I'm from Lyle Tilly Davidson, Chartered Professional Accountants, and we completed the audit for the most recent fiscal year ended December 31st. 2024. So first thing, you don't see it here, but I'll just go over the audit report a little bit. So we issued what's called an unmodified opinion. So that means we didn't come across anything that would cause us any concern. That the financial statements are not materially misstated. So a clean audit report for the year. And then I'll just go through a section of the statements here that you have in your report. So starting with the assets, you'll see cash down a little bit for the year at $571,000. That's just a function of timing. So you pushed ahead the renewal process a little bit into the new fiscal. So the remainder of that cash that you usually see will be coming at the first of the next fiscal. Then you have the cash equivalents for each of the operational reserve fund and the discipline fund. So both up this year, operational at $566,000, discipline at $121,000, and that's a function of just the accrued interest earned on those GICs and savings account for the year. You'll see no change in the advances to from the operation fund and the practice fund. And the prepaid expenses, you'll notice a big uptick there. That's just a function of a prepayment of a service before year end where it wasn't prepaid in the prior year. So that will flush out in the coming year. Then you see capital assets up about 4,000 to 14,789 or 780, excuse me. That's just purchase of office equipment, really. computers and office furniture, things like that. So that brings you down to the total of 1,331,026 on the asset side. And then liabilities, you'll see an uptick in the accounts payable up to 61,000. Nothing unusual in there really. It's just a function of timing of payments. Same composition as last year, just really when things are being paid. And then deferred revenue, again, you'll notice a large decrease. And again, that's a function of that movement of the renewal date into the next fiscal. So total liability is 568,426. Then your total net assets, 762,600, brings you down to total liabilities and net assets of 1.3 million as above. Any questions on the statement of financial position? All right, we'll move on. So for the statement of revenues and expenditures, the biggest thing you'll notice is members and application fees both up in the year. That's a function of increased member fee rate as well as new members joining during the year. So 1.1 million over 1.076 million of last year, 51,000 for the application fees, and then some other incidental revenues of conference and workshops and other. Gives you a total revenue for the year of 1,179,936. So moving down to the expenditures, the only big difference here you'll notice is administration down a little bit in the year, but again, that's a function of the movement of that renewal date. So there's actually less credit card fees in there than there would normally be. But those will be picked up at the beginning of the next fiscal when the rest of those renewals come in. So 389,309 for the admin. Meeting expenses up to 61,000. You get the regional and ABSW funds up a little bit, 15,000. Scholarships and bursaries about the same. And then personnel up a little bit to 656,000 for a total of 1,125,907 on the expenditure side. So that gives you a net excess of revenue over expenditures for operations, 54,000. You take from that a few of the special projects completed during the year, 37,780. And that brings you down to a total excess of revenue over expenditures of 16,249 for the year. So a small surplus, which is quite good compared to the budgeted loss of 33,000. So overall, a pretty strong year. Any questions on the income statement?
Any questions from members? Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kate?
Thank you, Jeff. So now we're going to look for a motion to approve the audit.
Okay. Thank you. I see Abigail moving that and Lynn seconding it. I'll take your hand as a second. Thank you, Lynn. Any questions on the auditor's report? There are none. Again, I invite you to indicate your approval of the auditor's report by raising your hand. Thank you so much. And again, those opposed, you can indicate by a thumbs down sign. Thank you so much. Kate, I neglected to move a motion in receiving your treasurer's report. So perhaps you could move that.
Do I make the motion
You can make that
to
motion.
accept my report? Oh.
Yes.
Oh no, he's taking my buddy. Oh no. He didn't even play Red Dog.
I'll make the motion to approve my
Okay.
report.
So we've got a motion to receive Kate's report, treasurer's report, and do we have a second? Is that
Patricia.
Patricia? Thank you so much. And again, all in favor of receiving the treasurer's report, just indicate by a raised hand. Okay. Thank you.
And thanks, Jeff. I think we have all we need from you. So thanks for your work this year. Appreciate it.
And those opposed, of course, by the thumbs down sign.
Jennifer, I see your question there about abstention. If you did want to abstain, we can mark that, or if anyone wanted to abstain.
An abstention is a no.
Yeah.
Recorded as a no. So folks know that.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And then I think we make a motion to appoint Lyle Tilly Davidson as our auditors for next year as well.
Yes. Are you making that motion, Kate?
Do I have a second?
So we need a second. Thank you, Jennifer. So we have a motion to appoint Lyle Tilly Davidson as our auditors for the next fiscal year. And can I see by an upraised hand those in favor? Thank you. And those opposed by a thumbs down sign. The motion is obviously carried. Who was it at? Who asked about the abstentions?
It was Jennifer.
Jennifer. Yeah, Jennifer. I often don't call for abstentions. That hasn't been my practice when chairing, particularly when it's obvious that that a motion is passed. There are 38 of us here. There were more than 24 voting in favor. Of course, if anyone would want to record an abstention, they could certainly indicate that they wish to abstain. In this particular format, I don't consider that people who didn't vote actually abstained. They just couldn't find their hands up button or have recognized the motion passing, and I don't consider that a formal abstention. But if anyone would like to record an abstention or any objection, feel free to. You can indicate in the chat, or you can unmute and do so. Now the presentation of the budget.
Thank you, Robert. So as you review the budget there, you can see on your screen the notes. So I'm not going to belabor those points, but I will, talk briefly about the fee increase that you see there. So council continues to apply a small increase to our annual fee each year, and this helps us to maintain our high quality of service and keep up with increased costs. For this year, that amounts to $11 additional a year. And Alec and council, we all recognize that money is a source of stress and hardship for many of our members. So we don't sort of make that decision lightly. However, the increase does help the college to maintain stability, which we have done very well in the last few years. And it also supports the investments in our capacity and growth for membership. And as I mentioned, I think we can all see the product of that. We've seen the benefit of that for the public and for our membership. And then the next point I want to touch on really is just about growth. We see a rise in applications every year. I think the Board of Examiners report shows, that increased interest or increased migration to Nova Scotia is helping us to see new applications. And we have a relatively new income stream of advertising that is bringing in some money, which is really helpful. And next year, we're going to have our 10th anniversary celebration as a college, which is so exciting. And I can't believe it's been almost 10 years. So these are indicators of our continued growth over these past 10 years. And I think the celebration will really bring that home for everybody. And as you can see, we are projecting a surplus in the budget. And these surpluses, which are a result of our excellent fiscal management, provide the funding for those special projects. And, I think each of those omnibus reports show you the excellent work that's happening with those special projects. And, we see it in the media, we see it, in our communities. And I hope that those of us who are doing direct practice are seeing it in our work as well. So that's all about the presentation of the budget. So I guess we're calling for a motion and then discussion, if anyone likes.
Thank you, Kate. So that's the presentation of the budget and a motion to receive and approve the budget. Do we have a second to that motion? Thank you, Angela. And again, any conversation or discussion on the budget? Let's pause for a moment there.
Yeah, there's a question here from Linda about, with the surplus, how do we justify the increase? Our surpluses are strategic for a couple of reasons. One is they go into growing our reserves, which we've targeted as needing to increase based on the added risk in the current environment, as well as they contribute to ongoing special projects. So, for instance, last year we completed work on the Code of Ethics. The Code of Ethics we use to our reserve and surplus spending to be able to make strategic investments and hire consultants to be able to analyze that work. So we strategically budget surpluses to be able to continue and advance the goals of the college and make those strategic investments. In terms of the fee increase, as in real economic terms, the reality is that with inflation, which everyone knows well, costs are going up. Most of the fee increases are not contributing to the surplus, as you can see through the last 3 years. Those are maintained as standard and moving forward. But the fee increases are to keep up with costs. Anytime that you don't change your fees based on a cost of living or inflation increase, that is, in real economic terms, a cut. So the fee increases are simply keeping the dollar up to the cost of what it means to run the organization.
Thanks, Alex. If I could just add, I think the surplus is also some flexibility for us. So when things happen that are unplanned, which of course they happen in household budgets and in our budget and our organizational budget as well, the surplus provides us with a little bit of wiggle room that we don't then need to dip in or what's the word I'm looking for? We don't have to rely on those reserves that are there for emergencies. So it allows us to have some flexibility, meet challenges related to financial pressures and the impact of running an organization that is now, up over $1 million in revenue. So it is really important. Lots of questions there.
Thanks. Yeah.
So I think we saw Katie first have a related question.
Yeah,
Katie,
and it's further down,
is it further down?
I thought.
No, that's,
Oh.
Yeah, no, I didn't type it. Can you, I
Okay.
hope I can be heard.
Sure.
I think I know the answer. I think the short answer is no, because I think my question, I would have seen the answer reflected in the budgets and the income statements, but I do want to just raise it so there's an awareness. But I'm curious if there is a fund or a process by which, if a registered social worker is come against difficult times, where they can apply for a subsidy for their fee. Just as I've moved from Ontario, and as I look at the salaries that some registered social workers are making based on job ads I see, and also if I think about women and other marginalized groups who are raising families on their own, etc., that a fee can sometimes be prohibitive of keeping your registration going.
I appreciate that, Katie. We do not have, the legislation requires that before someone can be registered, that fee be paid. That's written in the law. We have not, what we've done in terms of progressive fee structures and fee relief over the last few years, and we have studied this question a number of times, is we have created a progressive fee structure. Noting particularly that folks moving to the province and new grads face a higher burden in terms of those fiscal costs. So for folks who are getting registered within a year of graduation, their fee is half of what the normal registration fee is as part of that progressive fee structure. Similarly, the prorated aspect of moving into the province throughout. Just in terms of progressive fee structures, as I mentioned, we've looked at this a number of times in terms of fairness and being able to keep our operational capacity to be able to meet the public interest. And the challenge that we consistently have is when we reduce rates in one area, it does mean that we would need to increase rates in another area to be able to ensure consistency in the operating budget. And to do that requires way more intensive administration in terms of asking folks for reasons and why, and somewhat intrusive. So the decision has consistently been to keep the progressive fee structure as it is, noting the areas where folks feel the most burden as reported back to us, and continue to work on a case-by-case basis, which we do every year, on where folks are in terms of being able to complete their registration so that they can get to work.
Thanks for the question, Katie.
I see Abigail had a question there as well, in terms of members being able to pay in smaller payments. No, we don't do that. As I mentioned, the legislation does say that in order to receive your registration, it has to be paid in full. In addition, taking smaller payments is a risk and a liability financially to the college in terms of collection. Mm-hmm. And what we do encourage, again, is that folks work that into their own annual budget. The fee is, although last year it did change, but the fee is applied the same time every year. You can work with employers. For instance, we do know that the Nova Scotia Health does do a pay or a fee. I forget the name of the program off the top of my head, but they will help you save for that for that fee. Yeah, thank you. Payroll deduction towards it in that regards to be able to sustain that.
Linda's got a question above Abigail's there, Alec, just so we don't miss it. It's about justifying the increase given tariffs imposed impacting the economy.
Yeah, I mean, that is one of the reasons why we are targeting increasing our reserves, is so that if the economically, financially, the bottom falls out, that the college is positioned to be able to continue to regulate the profession, which we don't think is going to be going away anytime soon. So part of the rationale for continuing to grow our reserves is the economic threats that society faces in the face of tariffs, and doing good risk management from the perspective of the operations of the college.
And then Linda's follow-up question is about an emergency fund. So Linda, that's the reserves that we've been speaking about are the emergency funds. Joanne's question is about the extent of membership who find the fees burdensome. We did do some investigation on that at some point, did we not? A couple of years ago.
I missed that. What was the question? Yeah.
Joanne asked, do we know the extent of membership who find the fees burdensome?
Yeah, I think anytime you're paying a fee, it's burdensome. So, I mean, I think the answer is that is global, unless you have an employer that pays your fee for you. When we studied this issue a number of years ago, it was new grads and folks who are starting their careers who face the highest burden, particularly recognizing that in terms of pay, they're going to be starting at the bottom of their respective pay scales, often in not-for-profits. That's why we targeted the progressive fee structure towards new grads the most, as well as those moving. So that is what was noted when we studied this issue in the past. Linda, another question there in terms of emergency funds. So I can go back in terms of emergency funds. Jeff did touch on this in terms of our reserves, is that we keep two reserve funds, strategic reserve funds. One is for our overall operating reserve, which right now the policy had been to have 50% of our total operating costs in reserves. Council has since updated that policy, and over the next 10 years, we want to grow those strategic reserves to 100% of our operating costs. That's part of the risk management framework because of the state of the global world order, as it were. And we also keep strategic reserves in terms of our discipline fund. That is, in case we do have, the reality is that should we ever get into a place where we are moving towards contested hearings, judicial reviews, or legal fees, that we have additional pool of money to draw from to make sure that we are well funded. And part of our targeting of surpluses has also been to grow that reserve fund as well. These are, again, risk management fundamentals that Council has identified in terms of the ongoing state of the unjustified economic war that has been launched on Canada, and making sure that we are positioned to be able to meet those challenges should they arrive. In addition, there are a number of special projects that are identified on a priority basis. Again, just so you get a sense, there's always a growing and long list of what those special projects are and look like. I will say that the benefit of our reorg that we just did is that it has strategically changed my position so that a lot of the work that we were hiring consultants to do, we no longer need to because of the reorg that was consistent. But in terms of special projects that are on the horizon, our website has outgrown. We've outgrown our website, I guess, as it were, in terms of how content is delivered and structured there. We're delivering more professional development. Our advocacy is up. We have eyed the need for a new website. When we've quoted that out, that can be anywhere between $50,000 to $100,000. So we build up our strategic surplus to be able to pay that in full, rather than building it into our operating costs as part of our fiscal restraint. So that is how those decisions around surpluses are often made.
I just want to add, overall, our fees, and maybe this isn't helpful to everyone, but in comparison to the other regulated professions, our fees are low, still low.
In terms of the targeted amount, Linda, yes, as I mentioned, the new targeted amount just updated this year is for our operating reserves to hit 100% of our operating costs. We have a plan to do that over the next 10 years, as well as to grow that discipline reserve to $250,000 so that is robust and ready.
That's great.
And yes, these fees are in line with other provinces. And other provinces, unfortunately, we've taken the approach of needing to do small increments every year. Unfortunately, what other provinces do is wait until they are in some kind of fiscal turmoil and then do a larger fee increase. So you don't see the changes maybe as much in other provinces, but you do see them over time. And we are not far off other provinces at this point in time.
That used to be our practice as well.
Yeah.
Here in Nova Scotia, that we went multiple years with no fee increases, and then we would have a year in which there was a more dramatic fee increase, and we started implementing the small incremental 2%, 3% increases annually to keep from experiencing the shock of a dramatic increase.
And 2.4% is what inflation was in 2024. So essentially, we have not raised fees. Fees are raised to be consistent with what the dollar amount is actually worth.
And we do recognize that employers are not matching our salaries to that increase. So we understand it.
Yeah. Hence our advocacy role, because that's not just happening for social workers, of course. It's happening for a large swath of our population here in Nova Scotia. And we have that advocacy role to try to address those things, which are social justice issues.
Linda, can you say more about what you mean, whether it's justifiable? We've presented what justifies the increase.
Yeah, Linda, that would be really hard to gauge, as there are 3,000 social workers that work in many different sections, and have many different collective bargaining units. For instance, we know that collective bargaining with health just completed. There were pay increases of somebody with NSH can correct me, but I believe 5% in the first year of that collective agreement. And then 3, 2, and 1, I believe, the following years from that. Child welfare is in collective bargaining right now. There were fairly substantial fee increases that as well. Our goal, again, when we are planning and making decisions around our strategic investment, is to look at the operations of the college and what is needed in order to continue to deliver through our legislative mandate, as well as in the context of where social workers are positioned. So again, 2.4% is inflation. It's not more than that. We have, over the last 5 years, been able to do fee increases of less than inflation to be able to manage that and be able to look. So this was the work, Katie, that we were done, that I mentioned in terms of a review, in terms of salary bands and a progressive fee structure. In order to administrate that, then we have to start asking folks for their salaries and their collective agreements. It becomes very intrusive and very administrative heavy. So in terms of the costs of even implementing a program based on salary bands, this was explored. And the reality of it was that it didn't. There wasn't an effective or efficient administrative process to do that. To be able to justify that approach.
That reminds me a little bit of I served on the Judicial Appointments Committee, and when, as a province, we instituted as part of the Utility and Review Board process, a new regulatory framework for the pricing of gasoline. And in order to administer the regular tracking of the price of oil, such that we could regulate on an almost weekly basis the price of gasoline, the cost of administering that actually increased the cost of gasoline. So the thing that we put in place to try to regulate the cost of gasoline actually increased the cost of gasoline. And that's the kind of thing that we're talking about here, that if we were to implement the kind of infrastructure necessary for this kind of administration of our fees, we might actually see a net increase of fees for everybody because of the added cost of the administrative burden. So that kind of is the rationale for not doing that. You know. Yeah. So there.
Thanks, Lynn and Jennifer. Yep, good points. And Lynn, thanks for chiming in. Lynn has so much history and has been involved in a lot of these discussions and decisions and investigations. So thank you for that, Lynn.
Well, very good. That is the presentation of the budget. I guess we hadn't called. We called for the motion in the second, and that was our discussion. So now we need a vote. So all in favor of approving the budget, please indicate by a raised hand, and I'll indicate because we can see here. It's great. It's great. We have 21, 22, 23. So 23 members in favor. All those opposed, please indicate with a thumbs down emoji. Okay, we'll consider that to have passed. And thanks, Jennifer, for indicating that you weren't able to see the votes. And so I called out the numbers there so that for a greater transparency there. Thanks so much.
Thanks everybody for that discussion. It's helpful to hear from folks about how these things might impact them and have questions with budget. I appreciate it.
And thank you, Kate, for serving as treasurer, for leading us through that section of the AGM. Appreciate that. And now approval of the annual report.
So again, the annual report was circulated. Beyond the kind of core reports we delivered today to you, are additional reports from some of our committees. They are all there for folks to be able to see. We will call for motions and then any discussion on the rest of the annual report. Happy to answer any questions on our committees.
Okay. So is Patricia, are you moving the to approve the annual report? Receive the annual report. Thank you very much. Do we have a second? Thank you, Lynn. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to receive the annual report. Any other questions on the annual report? And Rebecca's placed, thank you, Rebecca, for placing the annual report in the chat. So if you'd like to take a quick peek at it, if you'd like to review it as we carry on with the meeting, you can click there. Thanks, Lynn. Always the booster. Okay, we've moved the annual report. Shall we have a motion to receive the annual report? We have the motion in a second. Let's see. All in favor, please indicate with a raised hand. Receiving the annual report. Let's see. 24 raised hands. Thank you very much. 26 raised hands. All those opposed indicate by a thumbs down. Yeah, I haven't seen any thumbs down. Thank you folks, that's the approval of the annual report. Council elections and appointments.
Great. So these are the announcements of, oops, there's a typo up there. Forgive that. These are the announcements of the council elections and appointments. Again, a call went out in February for where there were vacancies and where we received nominations. I'm happy to say that Michelle Ward, uncontested, so is reappointed to the position of vice president, starting their second term. Kate, again, put their name forward for treasurer, uncontested, so will begin their third term. Thank you, Kate, for staying with us on this for another term. Central Region Reps, Stephanie LeBlanc, again, uncontested, returning for their second term, beginning in 2025. In terms of regional representation, Western Region, we have Ian Ford, who put their name forward and are beginning their third term. We're happy and delighted to welcome Alexandra Earl Lampert, who will be put their name forward to be nominated as the Western Rep. It was uncontested, and she will be joining us for first term, beginning in 2025. Northern regional representation, April Monroe Wood put their name forward to begin their second term, beginning in 2025. We do have one vacancy left in the Northern region representation. If anyone is interested in filling this position, you can reach out to me. At this point in time, it moves to appointments by council outside of the election period. So if you wanted to, you could express some interest. In terms of Eastern Region, Claire Sampson McDonald let their name stand. It was uncontested, and they are Claire's beginning her second term. And then our Indigenous rep, Holly, we're delighted to have reappointed for a second term beginning in 2025.
Okay, very good.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for those coming back. Thank you to those new. Our college, our organization, our province is still a bastion of what self-regulation looks like and means. It does not exist or work unless you folks stand up and lead the organization, govern the profession of social work, and commit to ensuring that we are achieving the best of what our profession can bring to Nova Scotia. So I thank you all. These are volunteer roles, and it means a lot to both me, staff, as well as the profession and Nova Scotians that you serve in this capacity. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Al. Michelle, I see your hand is still raised. I don't know if you were, if that was still from the vote, or if you, oh, no, it went down. Very good. Well, thank you all. That brings us to the end of our business. And so I guess before we move to adjourn, I'll ask if there are any other questions, comments, congratulatory statements. Perhaps we could just demonstrate, perhaps by clapping or giving a hot heart emoji, recognizing those who will be joining our council and those who continue to serve. Again, as Alex said, without people willing to serve, the organization would not be thriving. It's been my privilege over the last year to be working so closely with the council and to see how members come with such deep commitment and such deep insight, not only to the challenges that are facing social workers on a daily basis, but also with such keen and such intimate involvement with the local community. And so that not only are social workers being represented around the table of council, but the communities of concerns that social workers work in and among are so ably represented among our council and committee volunteers. So if there are no other comments and there's no other business, I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to all of you for your participation and engagement today in our AGM. Your passion and commitment to our shared values make our achievements possible. Together, we're stronger. And the vision outlined in our 2024-2027 strategic plan will guide us towards even greater milestones. I also want to take a moment to thank the staff of the college, without whom our work would grind to a halt. I'll invite staff to unmute their cameras if they're not in uncompromising positions or to do so. I invite you to just unmute your camera, staff, to receive the congratulations and the thanks of your members.
And I'll name them here as well,
Yes.
just in case folks don't know. So Rebecca, you've been seeing in the chat, continually works tirelessly to bring the message and the values of the college to life in our communications. I see Tyler. Tyler joined us in the last year as well. Tyler has really continued to bring to life our very rich professional development program. Managing and staying ahead of issues and bringing amazing content forward for meaningful discussion and integration and oversight of our professional development program. Bria, again, we've talked about Bria in this meeting already, but what a major asset and pickup for the college this last year as well. Bria has taken on the role of the Associate Registrar, working with the Board of Examiners on applications and clinical specializations, as well as professional standards, and is really accelerating those programs with integrity and consistency. Who I know Paulina is also online. Paulina, you probably may have spoken to if you've ever had challenges with getting into our database. Paulina also came on in this last year to provide our really outstanding support. We have two staff that aren't here with us today as well. Valerie Hurd, who has, honestly, folks, when we look at how we process and exercise complaints, Val is inherently trauma-informed. He brought those values to it before we even identified as needing to move in that way, and has consistently led with compassion and empathy in really hard, complex processes to try and achieve the best of our profession and ensure that the public is protected. I can tell you, and this is really rare in regulation, we have had both social workers and complainants thank Valerie personally for the handling of complex complaint matters and how they felt they were treated and the outcome, which were all very positive. So I'm grateful to Val. And last but not least, Wilhelmina Welbeck, who's not here today, has taken on the role of admin support for our regulatory services, making sure that applications are processed on time, supporting Bria and Val in their work towards regulation of the profession. So it took a few more minutes, but I appreciate Robert giving me
and I'll also say that Val served as the acting executive director of the college during the brief period of time that Alec was on leave. And so I had a chance to work very closely with Val, and I appreciate how she very ably continued to have the college continue to thrive during that period, and to maintain appropriate boundaries between Alec and the college during that period of time. And of course, Wilhelmina's not last but least, but Alec, you're last but not least. So we just appreciate your leadership as executive director here and registrar of the college. So with that being said, and my apologies for extending us for a few moments, but I did want to recognize staff for all the great work that they do. And with that, I'll now move to adjourn our 62nd annual general meeting. And so I'll call for adjournment. And if we have a second, I think then we'll consider ourselves. Thank you very much, Holly. And I think that all in favor, you can now just shut off your camera and leave us all. And we'll look forward to working with you in the weeks and months ahead.
Also, just want to point out the efficiency of chairing here. 4 minutes early, everyone. That's
There you go.
There's a record. Thanks, everyone.
See you all.